That's Peachtree Creek behind me. It flows into the Chattahoochee River, a river that's about 430 miles long, and the Chattahoochee eventually empties into the Gulf of Mexico. We have some incredible rivers in Georgia, and I've done shows on a lot of them. So I thought it might be fun to pull some of the clips from my favorite shows and give you behind the scenes stories about some of those clips. So we're going to start off with the Timaha River, and let me tell you, when you see this clip, I was very, very, very unhappy when I found out how we were going down the river.
The Timaha creates one of the largest intact and relatively non-degraded estuaries on the Atlantic coast. It is one of the largest contributors of fresh water to the South Atlantic continental shelf. Bordered by 10 Georgia counties, the river cuts through hardwood bottomlands, cypress swamps, and tidal marshes. It is home to more than 100 rare or endangered species found in the river and surrounding lands. The Timaha is just too mighty to ignore, and I wanted to see it all. With Michael Gowan of Southeast Adventures as my guide, we prepare to experience as much of the river as possible. Our journey begins on the Aoni, which is upstream and feeds into the Timaha. But I am not prepared for this. It's called a Versaboard kayak.
All right, Michael, I'll take this boat, but I have no idea what to do with it. Now, what is this paddle for?
You have 2 paddles with this boat and only 2 arms, but you're going to trade off periodically. What's cool about this boat is not only is it a kayak, but it's awesome to stand up on.
Okay,
stand up. Mind you, I am not an experienced kayaker. Despite Michael's little demonstration, the words mighty river and stand-up kayak just don't seem to go together.
And when you do stand up, you'll go from a comfortable seating position.
You think I'm going to do that?
I think you're going to be able to do it.
All right.
And I think it's going to be the most fun thing we're doing is standing up, going down the river.
Okay.
If you look at a map of the river, you can understand my concern. We have to go through a point where 3 rivers merge to become the Timaha. It's called a confluence. The Oconee and Ocmulgee rivers join forces to make a Y shape in the river, and that's where the Timaha begins. 2 rivers forming a third. It's part of the reason the Timaha is so powerful. Standing up on something that powerful troubles me.
So we're going to paddle, we're not going to stand up first, or are we?
I think we should.
You don't think we should get past the confluence before?
Standing up? Well, it's up to you, but I think you'll be fine just taking off right here, right off the bank, standing up. And then you don't have to even sit down. That's the beauty of it. You just step right on it and you're out of here.
You couldn't just make this simple, huh?
What would be the fun of that? There you go.
Once on the water, the kayak feels solid under my feet. It's like walking on water, and all those fears begin to melt away. Michael and I have the river completely to ourselves. I'm so used to noise. It's an eerie feeling out here. No cell phone, no traffic, no people. As we approach the confluence of 3 rivers, it is surprisingly calm. We are standing in the middle of 3 rivers, and there's just something pretty cool about the whole thing.
I've paddled all 3 of these rivers, but I've never paddled right here where they come together.
And that's why you had to stand up.
That's right. Got to stand up to the confluence.
Yay! That's why I do what I do. 99% of the time, I end up really having a wonderful experience. I fell in love with that kayak. But our next little clip is a place I should have been concerned.
If we just squeeze right through here, I think we'll be good to go.
All right.
There is great diversity of plant and animal life that live here. It is not what I expected. Everything in this hidden spot is quiet. Even the snake seems at peace and oblivious to our presence.
This is the top of a side creek of the river.
Check out that maneuver.
It does require a bit of maneuvering to get through some of this stuff.
Yeah, it does. Through here?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Are you laughing at me?
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because it's fun.
You're laughing at me because I have a very ungraceful way of going from sitting position to standing position.
These back swamps act as sponges, often retaining water that might otherwise cause flooding downstream. The Timaha twists and turns like a snake. With a floodplain from 3 to 12 miles wide, it constantly erodes and deposits silt, creating nooks and crannies along the way and breathing life into places like this.
I see the edge of the swamp right up here.
Heading back out to the Timaha or to a lake?
This is a side lake on the river, and we'll just come out of the trees and right out into the open water.
Back on the main river, it is beautifully serene. Atlanta's rush hour seems far, far away.
Okay, think about this. We start out, and the first thing we see is a great big old snake on a tree branch. Then we go in the jungle, bumping into trees, making a big noise and splash. Not once did it occur to me what might fall from a tree onto my kayak or what might come up from the water until I got back to GPB and looked at the video, and that's when I went, woman, you are crazy. But you know what? I had fun. Now, the next clip I'm going to show you, I really was scared, and for good reason.
It seems appropriate to spend our next 2 nights on a boat at the mouth of the ocean.
I'm Patrick Hagan, your fearless and all-knowing captain. The Captain Gabby is a 42-foot shrimp boat built in '79, and we have converted her for use as a kayaking mothership.
We're leaving on the heels of a tornadic storm system that took the lives of many people from Missouri to Georgia. But the worst appears to be over. With a rainbow as our omen, the Gabby heads to a point where the Timaha meets the Atlantic. We're feeling so confident, Patrick even lets me steer the boat, but not for long. Another storm has moved in behind us, and now it's a race to reach our safe spot between 2 islands. Lightning is getting too close for comfort, and our rainbow has been replaced with black skies. With this much lightning, we pull the camera inside.
The National Weather Service in Jacksonville has issued a special marine warning until 5:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Mariners can expect gusty winds, high waves, dangerous cloud-to-ground lightning, hail, and heavy rains. Boaters should seek safe harbor immediately until this storm passes.
The storm passes quickly, and this is the reward. The sky is like a painted canvas. It is simply beautiful, and we are now anchored for the night. Like wet river rats, we huddle in the galley, and our captain becomes the cook.
We have a delicious organic garden salad. We have shrimp cakes, cornbread, fresh picked greens. Good.
In the middle of water, in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. Doesn't get any better than that.
No, it doesn't.
So you didn't see much of the storm. It was that dangerous. My photographer was stuck in the back. He couldn't get up to where I was, hidden back in the galley. Water was coming in the sides. The boat was bumpy. The rain was so hard you could barely see. And I'm worried about the safety of my photographer and, quite frankly, my safety too. But that's why you don't see much of the storm. It was too dangerous. So that is one time I really was scared. Now, the next clip I'm going to show you, I was irritated with Michael, my guide. You'll see why.
The next morning, we head for the widest place in the river, where a lot of those timber ships were anchored many years ago.
This is Rifle Cut. It gets its name because, as you can see, it's straight as a rifle shot. You can shoot a rifle all the way the length of it. It was dug out during the logging days, so you could float logs straight down it more directly to Darien.
Michael decides to take a shortcut, or so he says.
Given the fact that we're blocked by a huge log, you still we're not going to get over this. I mean, it's not going to go up that fast.
Well, it's already halfway up the log, and we've just been sitting here talking for a few minutes, so.
Instead of taking a different route, we are waiting for the tide to come in and raise the water enough to move our boat. The extreme ocean tides that impact the Timaha system reach miles upstream, and boat captains through history have had to deal with the rise and fall of these waters.
It's almost underwater, look at there.
You're not going to get over this for another hour.
We're on the tide schedule.
One look at Michael's colleague, Charlie, tells me I'm right.
Is this my history lesson on how hard it was for the loggers?
That's right. You just
Okay.
hurry up and wait.
Just wanted to make sure there was a purpose here.
Hurry up and wait, that's right. We're gonna get the real feel for what it takes to be controlled by the tide.
We wait and wait and wait. Even with the tide up, it is a trick getting past this log.
It's gonna let us over right now.
No, I just want to see how long this little endeavor took. It's now 3:28, and we started at
3:15. 2:15.
2:15.
Okay.
Started here?
Is that when it was? It just doesn't seem that long.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Under this, and we
This
barely
turns
made it.
out to be the longest shortcut I've ever taken.
Watch out, Shane. Limb coming at you. All right, this is gonna take a little finagling, but we can make it through.
Maybe.
But finally, it looks like we'll make it through.
We've almost survived Rifle Cut. Almost.
Then the Timaha appears, no longer winding past sandy banks. This is the river at its widest and most majestic point.
Now we're out into the Grand Timaha.
Next, we head for Lewis Island, a place that you really need a guide to even get through. And this is when Michael, my guide, became irritated with me.
I had read stories about boats getting lost, people dying in these swamps. And now I can see why.
I'm sure this is gonna work.
There we go.
I'm just gonna spin here. Almost.
Well, I always wanted to enter the river backwards.
I couldn't find my way back if my life depended on it. Somehow, we end up back on the main river.
Man.
All right.
Yeah, good job.
We made it. Barely.
Barely. You're right.
Okay, we are in the middle of nowhere, and we come across a boat, and there are two men sitting in the boat, and you know, I'm just chatting up and saying, hey, what do y'all got? What are you doing? Are you fishing? Blah, blah, blah. And Michael, everybody got really quiet, and the one guy in the boat would not even look at me. I thought, everybody's being rude here. And Michael said, Sharon, we need to go. And he pulls out, and he turns around to me and he goes, Sharon, did you not see the guns on the floor of that boat? Oops, no. I think he wanted to throw me overboard. And shortly after we got to open water, that boat came flying out of the swamp and flying upriver. I was just trying to be friendly. Anyway, we've got one more side trip from this show with a guy I call my Swamp Santa.
Before heading back to the Gabby, I meet retired Timaha riverkeeper James Holland. He may know this river better than anyone and promises an adventure.
If I say duck, y'all duck. There's a reason for it.
All right. Wow, look at that tree. What is that?
That's an
Tupelo?
Ogeechee Tupelo. That's one tree coming from one base root.
That's just amazing.
It is amazing.
The place he takes us is like a tree museum. There are cypress trees, Tupelo, Ogeechee, and they're all huge.
James, what makes these knees?
Here's what happened. Okay, when it's flooded like this, the base root itself is covered with water. Well, if it stays covered in water, the tree will die. So these are extensions from it that breathe for it when it's flooded. This is the roots from these trees around.
So this helps that huge tree breathe when it's covered up with water.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's exactly what it does. Breathe now.
It's like going into the swamp with Santa Claus. He chuckles the entire way and can't wait to show off his favorite trees.
You afraid to get wet?
No.
Well.
Is it solid?
Well, not really solid,
now,
but
James,
you ain't gonna go away. It ain't quicksand.
Am I gonna step down and go 5 feet?
No, I'm gonna put you on them roots.
All right.
And then you ease out at your own pace, okay? I wouldn't dare let you come up here and not get your photo against that thing right there. It is just, look at the thing.
As I climb into something that seems older than time, I look up and see the sky. James loves this tree, and now so do I.
I had no idea he was going to do that, so I get out and walk through a swamp and climb into a tree that could have had bats and raccoons and rats and snakes and all kinds of stuff, and I didn't even think about it, and I would do it again. It was just a wonderful moment.
That tree back there was here when Columbus came here. I'll bet you anything it was. Yeah, it's like taking a spiritual trip. That's why I say, you want to feel like you're close to God, come in here and get near these old big trees. That's it.
Incredible trees.
They're
We
unique.
ease
you know?
our way through. James pulls up on a sandy ridge. As we walk, there's a flash of white, and everyone freezes. Our Swamp Santa has yet another gift.
Look at the white ibis. See them right there?
Yeah.
These ibis are in mating mode. You can tell by the blood-red bill and legs. They don't see us, and it is rare to see so many of them together in a place like this. But there's more. After the show, we head back out to see his favorite tree, the granddaddy of them all.
If the water's high enough, we can go between these two knees. Now look at that.
That is majestic. Unbelievable.
That is the largest known cypress this side of Mississippi.
That is some kind of pretty.
And look at the knees that belong to it. You think how many years did it take to create a cypress knee that big around?
A lot longer than I've been alive.
Oh, yeah, Lord, yeah.
James will go back time and time again. This may be my only visit, but I now understand why this river is referred to as the Little Amazon and inspires such passion.
So we're going to switch rivers now. We're going to go to the Chattahoochee River, which a lot of people wanted me to do a story on this, and I just said, you know, ugly, boring. I was wrong. If you're stressed, and who isn't, It's nice to dream about going to faraway places with views like this. Peaceful, soft, a dream-like movie scene. Well, surprise, this spot is just minutes off Interstate 285, one of the most heavily traveled roads in Georgia. We are in Cochrane Shoals, one of 16 land units that make up the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. Chattahoochee was the first river to be named a national water trail. It covers 48 miles of river and 10,000 acres of land, broken up into parks like Cochrane Shoals. Our recreation area is one of 413 national parks across the nation, but not in the traditional sense.
We are very different. We're an unusual park in that we're 48 miles of the Chattahoochee River, which of course is America's first national water trail. And along that 48 miles, there are 16 different land areas like this one that have hiking trails, picnic areas, boat ramps, and absolutely enchanted areas. What people also don't realize is this stretch of the river, this extension of the Southern Appalachians, is part of what the Cherokee Indians call the Enchanted Land. And we have the honor and privilege of being the stewards of the last remaining enclaves of that enchanted land. And people only have to come out here to find that there is indeed enchantment.
I was also wrong when several people told me that the park ranger would be one of the best interviews I would get. I thought, no way. They were right, I was wrong. Jerry Hightower has been a ranger for 40 years. We met at the Island Ford unit and walked the trail to a spot known in days past as Proposal Rock. Before the metro area stretched north, this was far from the city and a good place for young couples to hide away. Today, it is a respite for those who just need a little quiet. Surprisingly, children fall into that category. I can't imagine little kids being stressed, but you deal with children all the time.
And they are. They're, you know, it's school, it's home life, it's everything that's put upon them.
Devices.
They don't live a carefree life. And so coming out here, experiencing the river, even on a field trip, when it's schoolwork, it makes a huge difference to them.
Get it. We need to see it. Okay. It's a let me look at it. Listen, okay, let me.
And what all this research has shown us, that when you put a child in a natural setting, within 5 minutes, their brain chemistry changes. And they start to relax, and they start to learn more, and their brains just change. And it only takes 5 minutes in nature for that to begin to happen. This morning, you are all scientists. On the creek there, we are looking for little bitty wiggly squiggly animals.
Jerry works with hundreds of kids a year. He teaches the children of parents he taught in the past.
All right, now, you see anything wiggling and squiggling in there? Look for tiny little bitties. How many legs? Six legs, so that means it's a what? No, these are dragonflies and damselflies.
That one's carrying another fly.
He brings them on field trips out here or goes to their classrooms where he uses a bit of humor to get their attention. Like this rap song about scat. Oh, sing me the scat song. Come on.
All right. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, well. Now remember, a good song has to start out with a good well, because well without a good well, then the song just doesn't work that well, so well you understand the importance of the well. Well, starts with an S and it ends with a T. It comes out of you and it comes out of me. Now I know what you're thinking, but don't call it that. Be scientific and call it scat. Be scientific and call it scat. be scientific and call it scat. Yeah.
What kid would ignore that? And once he has their attention, Jerry gets into the real science. Showing kids how to connect with nature is Jerry's passion.
If the trees are taking carbon dioxide out of our atmosphere, what do the trees give us? Oxygen to breathe. What a deal.
When you look at the magnitude of what is at stake, Jerry believes his mission is critical. The next generations have to understand the importance of these waters.
All right, when you were standing at the sink brushing your teeth and you reached over and you went, patooey, and you spit in the sink and it swirled around and disappeared, or you leaned over and you flushed the toilet, after we clean it up, where does that water go?
It goes back into a river.
It goes right back into the Chattahoochee River. Now, while you were brushing your teeth this morning, you were using the water that students from Lumpkin County Elementary School upstream from us flushed down the toilet last week.
Remember, I was not going to interview him because I thought he might not be engaging. I thought you might like to hear me tell on myself. I have preconceived notions sometimes. One of the others was that the Chattahoochee River is filthy. Wrong again. On any given day, you will see fishermen below the dam. All of them hoping to catch a fish that comes with bragging rights. To help their success rate, the Department of Natural Resources stocks fish in the river throughout the year. On a cold spring day, we were at West Palisades Park watching fish fly into the water.
As long as they're going from water to water,
Yeah.
no rocks or limbs in between, then they're going to be just fine.
Pat Markey raises both rainbow and brown trout at the Buford Fishery. So how big will they get?
Well, we have grown them for about 1.5 years at the hatchery. They're about 10.5 inches long, the rainbow trout.
Right.
As you'll see, the brown trout are much bigger. But there's no telling. This far down in the river, there's a lot more tributaries, a lot more food items, and these fish have the opportunity to get quite a bit bigger. There are some rather large brown trout down in this section. This is a nice deep pool. This is great habitat at this time of the year for these trout.
If you get a big brown trout.
You want to look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a big brown trout, or a bigger brown trout.
Gloves come in handy. Oh,
yeah.
He's pretty.
So they don't have that iridescence, but they have large black freckly type spots, kind of an olive green, silver color, very beautiful fish.
It is beautiful.
And they do very well down here. I'm at Buford Hatchery, and I'm responsible for growing this fish from 4-inch fingerlings to 16-inch brown trout, and that takes about 1.5 years or so. But that's what we do. That's my job.
That's one reason Trout Unlimited ranks the Chattahoochee below Buford Dam among America's top 100 trout streams. It's John Lee Thompson's job to make sure it stays that way. You guys put in an extraordinary amount of trout in the river.
Right. Typically our goal is 1 million trout per year. That's probably 80% rainbows, maybe even more than that, 90% rainbows, 10% brown trout. This reach of river here gets about 50,000. It's very beautiful.
This is beautiful, and we're minutes from
the Braves Stadium.
The Chattahoochee is one of 3 trout rivers in the world that runs through a metro region of 1 million+ people. So is the river clean enough to eat the fish you can catch? Biologist Pat Snellings says absolutely.
It's not just the trout fishery either. We have a striped bass fishery that they start moving up from West Point Dam for the better cool water that we have coming out of Lake Lanier. We have also the Chattahoochee River is home to the shoal bass, which is a Georgia state fish. It's endemic to the Chattahoochee River. It's a phenomenal resource, and it's really just, like I said before, it's a gem in Atlanta to have this kind of fishery and this quality of a fishery right here in the city.
And even in lousy weather, both local and out-of-state anglers make good use of it.
Nice, Wes. Milk it, Wes. Let it flop around a little bit. Way to go, buddy. Keep tight on him. Going for the double. There you go. Way to go, brother. Awesome, man. Awesome. It's a 37-mile stretch of water, all natural reproduction, brown trout. See if he'll swim out. There he goes.
A National Park Service report shows that 2.7 million visitors showed up at the Chattahoochee Recreation Area in 2016. The money they spent supported close to 2,000 jobs in nearby communities. Sally Bethay is with the Chattahoochee Parks Conservancy and hopes the organization can help the park rangers maintain and upgrade the riverbanks and individual parks.
That from downtown Atlanta, in 20 minutes, you can be out here with a fly rod and fishing for trout. It's completely amazing. You know, this park is a secret, but in so many ways, it's our other backyard in Atlanta, and we need to figure out ways to take care of it and to make sure that the millions of people who love it and come to it every year don't love it to death.
It's a difficult park to wrap your head around. There are miles of river and more than a dozen land units, each with a slightly different feel, all with scenic access to the Chattahoochee. There is no main entrance to this national park, no grand visitors center, just these wonderful green spaces that stretch through several counties and past numerous cities. This national park is indeed a gem, with everything from climbing rocks to great trout fishing. But since it runs behind Atlanta instead of directly through the middle, it is easy to overlook. As such, it faces many challenges in the future: drought, pollution, and more homes that will inevitably be built as close to the river as legally possible. Awareness of Chattahoochee's enchantment may be its saving grace.
And so my job is not for the people today. You know, everything I've done for the last 40 years is for people that I will never meet. You know, people that'll be born generations from now. And we have to lay the foundation, and we have to create the next generation of stewards, you know, before we pass on.
I seriously was not going to do this show. And there's so much beauty at the Chattahoochee. There are historic buildings, there are miles of trails, and this. Back at Palisades with Bob Ruby, we enter a forest that is not like anything you would expect. This is unbelievable. Bob, this really is a bamboo forest.
I told you, it was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. They were doing sword fights up on the top of the bamboo.
Look at this. It's like some fairy tale.
It's one of the interesting things to see in the park. You know, it's not native, it's invasive. And they talked about coming out and cutting this stuff. And the natural resources people said, well, we're afraid that you'll cut it and you'll get little shreds of it will get into the river and go down and plant themselves somewhere else. So we'd rather just contain it here.
It sounds like metal. I bet this thing is so strong.
Yep.
And just look at all of it. And it doesn't, is it spreading much?
Not a lot. I haven't seen it visibly grow. I imagine it is, but I've never done measurements, and I haven't observed a dramatic
It's like
growth.
steel. Well, this is the biggest bamboo I've ever been
It's
around.
about 60 feet high.
60 feet, wow.
That's what I'm guessing.
I'm glad they didn't chop it down.
Volunteers like Bob keep this national park in shape. It's no secret that there simply isn't enough money to hire the staff necessary to clear fallen trees, make trails, or enforce laws. David Thomas is the ranger who coordinates the volunteer efforts, like these Boy Scouts creating this new trail.
It's more involved than what you think, because we have corporate groups that come and want to do things at the park. Today we have a Boy Scout group, so we do about 110 to 130 events like this every single year. So this now, Chattahoochee is in the top 25 for visitation in the entire country. And we're thrown in with people like Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Yosemite, all the big parks that you normally think about. Chattahoochee's right there with 3.5 million people coming every single year, hammering these trails, and these old road beds cannot handle what's going on.
As the river flows past Columbus, it turns into the longest urban whitewater rafting site in the world.
All right, is everybody ready to go rafting?
Yeah.
All right.
So we're right here in downtown Columbus on the Chattahoochee River. We're with Whitewater Express, and we do rafting in the middle of an old mill town. They blew out the dams and had an amazing visionary project to recreate the entire downtown district. So we are the closest whitewater rafting to the entire state of Florida. So we get a lot of travelers come up from Florida, only being about 3 hours and 30 minutes from Panama City in the Gulf Coast right there, 90 minutes south of Atlanta. So there's a lot of people that travel here, and Columbus has really begun to blossom as a tourism town. True story, I mean, I'm a Columbus native. It used to be kind of just like a don't go in the water kind of mentality, and I think we've really changed that. So the rapids actually increase the health of the river. Having the river flow naturally actually has brought back fish to the river, and the aeration makes it a healthier river. Now this is when you get the scope of how big this river is. That is a 13-foot raft. Here they disappear and they're gone. They made it through. So we are right here on the Chattahoochee River. That's Columbus, Georgia, right there in the background. We're looking right here at the biggest rapid in the eastern United States. It's called Cutbait. And then behind it, over on the other side of the river, is Wave Shaper. So this is my favorite spot on the whole entire river. I love it. You get a bird's eye view of everything, and you get, especially as the sun begins to set, you get the most epic view of just the downtown district. And so this is my favorite spot. The kayakers love this place. And so what's so cool is you got a river that is not boring for experts and is great for beginners. You have eddies that are huge and great, so you can paddle around and learn the skill and the sport. But then also you have the ability to fire it up and get into the big stuff and really get into some of those really cool rapids and whatnot, and long surfs that are glassy that you can really do flips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun, it's aggressive, it's big, but ultimately I think this is why people still are talking about it, and it's not just a rinky-dink little shoot down the river. It's legit rapids that are really, really cool.
Before I did this show, that river was just something I crossed over on the interstate. Now I know so much more about it, and that's part of the beauty of this job. I learn so many things. And I also meet some very interesting characters. But there are many folks who act as watchdogs of the rivers, people like Amos Tuck. We met Amos and his sister Rebecca in a remote part of northwest Georgia, well off the beaten path, on the Chatuga River.
Yeah, you can kind of use this as a walking stick.
He tells me we're going to get fish samples. But obviously, as you can tell by the way I'm dressed, this is not what I had in mind.
Create kind of a bag that's perfect.
Amos flushes them out with a move that looks anything but scientific.
Do the river dance.
Whoa! Yeah.
See anything flopping?
I don't see anything.
What's neat about a fish is that you can look at the way it's shaped and know a lot about it. So you see how he's got these great big pectoral fins, and that head that's squished on the bottom, and then you look, and these pelvic fins are way up on his throat.
Yeah.
So you know that he lives on the bottom, and you can look at his big mouth and know that he's a predator.
We do this several times and find minnows, darters, suckers, all the tiny fish so critical to this ecosystem. It's like finding treasure, flashes of color that look like something you might see in the aquatic section of a pet store.
This one here is the speckled darter.
Why are darters so important?
Darters they're kind of like the canary in the coal mine. So they like clean waters, and so they're a really good indicator of stream health because they like to be in these faster moving, cleaner waters, and you don't see them in more polluted areas. And so they're kind of the first ones to go.
But this isn't the best part of the Chatuga. Upriver is a place called the Snorkeling Hole because there are so many fish and the water is crystal clear. I can see every stone in the river.
I like to think that this is what our rivers are supposed to look like.
I mean, I'm sitting here looking, like right here. I can see these rocks through the water is so clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I feel like we've had a little bit of rain. I feel like the water's a little bit murkier than what I'm
You
used
call
to
this
seeing.
murky?
I know, it's hard to believe, but in some of these deeper pools, I'm used to seeing a little bit clearer than that.
Wow, well, it looks pretty daggone clear to me. And this is why you love it, because you can see the fish.
Amos calls it the coral reef of Georgia, and he's about to prove it. Armed with snorkel gear and my underwater camera, he plans to show me how many fish are hidden below.
Can you see what you're seeing?
Amos is looking for tiny fish with names like Alabama hogsucker or banded sculpin. Fish that are critically important to the ecosystem and only found in a few places.
All right, so tell me what we have.
This is a banded sculpin. It's a really neat fish. You know, it's a real small fish, but it has, for such a small fish, it has a pretty wide mouth, almost like a mouth of a frog or a big toad. And to be such a small fish, he's a pretty ferocious predator in his small little area.
He goes back out to record all the life moving around those rocks. There are large stone rollers, fish that move rocks to graze on the algae. He sees a bridled darter, so rare it is protected as endangered in Georgia. Another beautiful species at risk is called the holiday darter. The spectacular markings of red and green give the fish its name, and the only place it is found in the world is right here in this river system.
That's why Amos works with the Upper Coosa River Basin Initiative. It is considered by some to be North America's most biologically diverse watershed.
My job is, what I always tell the school children that I go to, my job is to protect the Upper Coosa River Basin. You know, does that make me a superhero? Yes, I think it does.
The only person who's ever come out and admitted it.
Well, you know, what does Batman do but protect Gotham City? It's my job is to protect the Upper Coosa River Basin.
This job behind the scenes also involves a lot of research. Even when a so-called expert tells me something, if it sounds too good to be true, I have to really check it up. So when people were telling me that Georgia rivers had some of the greatest freshwater fish diversity in the world, I'm like, really? But I found my expert and I got my answer.
It sounds unbelievable. So I asked an expert fish ecologist from the Department of Natural Resources to back up the claim. Brett Albanese suggested we meet in another gorgeous spot, this one near Covington. It's called Factory Shoals on the Alcovy River.
How important is Georgia in the area of fish diversity?
Okay, extremely important. If you look at this globally, outside of the tropical areas, Georgia is one of the richest areas in the temperate world for freshwater diversity. The southeastern United States overall is a real hot spot for aquatic biodiversity, but we are third in the nation for the number of native freshwater fish species, 265 species. We have 70 crayfish, we're fourth in the nation. We have over 100 freshwater mussel species, third in the nation for diversity. So this is
third
really
in the nation is huge.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rainforest for freshwater diversity right here in our own backyard.
Third in the nation for native freshwater fish diversity? Amazing. But all these fish depend on clean water, and that is the reason people of different persuasions come together on the issue of keeping rivers clear from silt and pollution. The Broad River Watershed Association is one such group.
I had never heard of the Broad River, but boy, I had a lot of fun on that river. Unfortunately, it ended on a bad personal note.
This river flows wild and free in east rural Georgia, not far from the South Carolina line. Long ago, this water served as the border between Cherokees and the Creek Indian tribe. These days, Michael Moody watches over the waters. It is quiet as I paddle with Michael, an outfitter, and fellow river rat Paul Webb, a farmer. We don't see anyone the entire day.
I guess I am a river keeper, but on a personal level. You know, I do what I can, and I'm a paddler. So I've always tended to do that no matter where I am, whether if it's on the Chatuga River, the Timaha, or here. You know, I like seeing people take care of it, not, hurt it needlessly, I guess is the best way to say it. I don't know, I just love it because it's a beautiful river and it's not developed.
We're heading toward a weir, rocks laid in a zigzag to trap fish. If you've never paddled, here's a quick lesson for getting over rocks. In the rippling water around them, look for a smooth area. It's called a tongue, where Michael is directing me.
So this next little section is, in fact, the fish weir.
Okay.
Like a waterfall, you can't see it from upstream.
Got you.
It's got what they call a horizon line, and you can't see what's behind it until you get right on top of it, of course, and then it's too late.
All right. Let's hope I get there.
Oh, yeah. We're aiming directly for it now, so you're about there, too. A little bit to your left. There you go, you're right on the tongue. Perfect.
A 100 years ago, the river used to be lined with farms, but now trees have taken over the land and serve as a buffer between civilization and wilderness. We see herons and ducks. The river is full of turtles. Paul gets bored with us and quickly catches a fish. After we pull off for a break, I hop in the canoe with Paul. They don't trust my expertise, or lack thereof, for what's coming up next. I hear it before I see it. But there is more to see on the Broad. A few days later, we join a group heading down Anthony Shoals, shallow water with lots of rocks that stretch about 1/4 mile wide. A cut was blasted out of those rocks in the 1800s so that barges could pass through. If we can find it, our goal is to paddle on top of that canal and ride it to safety. Things seem pretty calm, even though the water is too high to see the canal. We'll be looking for fast-moving ripples.
I can't believe anybody would bring a barge down here.
Well, back before you didn't have, locomotives or railroads, and wagons were getting stuck in the mud and up and over the creeks and no bridges.
Yeah, I guess.
The only way to transport stuff was by the river.
So basically, we're going to try to go down this canal we can't really see.
Well, this next one we can. The upper one was hard to spot.
Okay.
Because it's like they call it a flat shoal kind of area. The lower section has got a real steep gradient.
Well, let's head, I guess let's head down and find that canal.
All right, let's give it a shot.
All right. Tell me what to do. You've got inexperience in your boat.
All right. We're going to have to go right up here.
Okay.
As soon as we leave our pull-off spot, the water gets faster. There are just so many rocks. It is a bit nerve-wracking.
Just follow the little whitewater. Big rock up here. Think rock to the right. Woo. Down the canal, huh? Wow. There was supposed to be a lot more for you to see, but we got to the bottom of the rapids and my cell phone kept dinging. People had been trying to call me for an hour, and what happened is I had a relative rush to the hospital in serious condition, so we just rode as fast as we could to get across a lake. Then I had to get in the GPB van and drive 2 hours back to Atlanta. The relative turned out, everything was fine, but it happens more than you would think. I was dropped off on Sapelo Island by the last ferry, and I got a call from an EMT who tells me a good friend has been in a head-on car collision in the hospital. I called other friends, got help, everything turned out okay, but the moral of this story is, do not get somebody like me to be on your emergency contact list. It just doesn't work out. Anyway, I hope you had fun hearing the behind the scenes and how things on shoots don't always go as planned. And maybe you were inspired enough to check out a couple of rivers on your own. I'm Sharon Collins. We'll see you next time.